Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Charles from the channel Books on Stereo, and I'm here to bring you a really, really special interview. Today I have the Lauren Rowe, who, if you haven't read any of her books, like, what are you doing? And then we have probably her number one fan. I'm gonna call myself the number two, Bree from In Love and Words. Like, I can't call myself number one while she's like right next to me. She'll be like, Charles, you didn't even read the Josh and Cat trilogy yet. Like, I've read all of Lauren Rowe's books, but I can say I read her upcoming release that will be, when this video goes live, it'll be out today. Is a hate love duet. But the first question I want to ask Lauren is, how did you get into writing romance? Like, were you always a romance reader?
Oh my God. Oh, those covers though.
Those covers. I saw those covers. I was like,
they're my favorite that I have ever done, by the way.
Oh, they're beautiful. I think they're my favorite too.
That's the hate. Love.
And that's saying something, because all of your covers are amazing.
Are really good.
So good.
Thank you. I love my covers, but like I hate to say that I have a favorite because that's mean, but
those are good.
Okay, we'll get to that. But thanks for having me. I could not be more excited. And Bree, oh my gosh, like through the years, literally, I have been honored and blessed to be on many of your lists. And I'm always and I always squeal, and I'm always so excited. And thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for writing such amazing books.
Yes. Yes. So Lauren, how did you get into writing romance? Were you always a romance reader, or you kind of just stumbled into it?
I've always been a huge reader, and I read some romance, a huge diverse assortment of books. I love biographies and memoirs. I love comedians who write their memoir. Those are always sad, actually.
No, they are, right?
They tend to be sad.
Historical. I love all kinds of stuff. How I got into it is I originally was, well, I have to just start at the beginning. I'm going to try to make this brief because it's not that exciting. But as a kid, I wrote like 10 or 15 novels in those little journals in pencil. And I mean little kid. And I remember they were like Josephine. And then I wrote a sequel, The Return of Josephine. She was a ghost. My friend, the 6th grade book. That. Yeah, like I wrote book and books. And so I thought that was normal, but it turns out it's not that normal. They were long. And then I always was writing plays and always doing all that kind of, so writing was obviously in storytelling. Oh, and here's another thing I found out. I had Barbies, and I would spend months on a storyline with my Barbies. I would spend like 4 hours a day playing, and then the next day resume the story. And then I would meet some new kid on the block, and then I'd be like, do you want to play Barbies? And then after 20 minutes, they're like, yeah, then now what? And I go, what do you mean now what? This is like going to last this.
That's so funny that you say that, because my sister and I played with story, like we did storylines too, my sister and I, and we'd play with friends, and they'd be like, oh, let's brush our hair. I'm like, wait, what's the storyline? Like, hold on.
There's been a plane crash. I'm going to make my backyard muddy. We're going to traipse through, like, it's elaborate. And yeah, they just want to change the clothes. Anyway, clearly I was a storyteller from a young age without realizing it. And I went to theater school at UCLA undergrad, where I wrote plays and they got produced, which at UCLA is kind of at the time felt like a big deal that mine was chosen for production. So I had reinforcement, like, okay, you're actually a storyteller. But then I come from a family of lawyers. So I went to law school and became a lawyer and wrote briefs, appellate briefs, was a trial lawyer, and in retrospect, got good at telling a story to a jury, having all these facts and say, like, here's what I'm trying to explain to you. That was really good training. I didn't realize it, but it really was. And then I got cancer. Now, this was like 10 years ago. And that's when I stopped being a lawyer and went, you know what, how much time do I have? I don't know. So, because I had aggressive form, chemo, the whole shot. And I decided I'm going to write that book I've always wanted to write. And I wrote a cancer memoir. This is not as Lauren Rowe. This was not romance. But what happened was this opened up the world to me of writing. I realized I could write, and a lot of the story was told like a novel, lots of dialogue. It was like a Lauren Rowe book, basically, only it was all true. And so from that, long story short, indie publishing was just becoming kind of a thing, a big thing. And I just was like, oh, I have this idea for a story, but I better pick a pseudonym, not because I'm embarrassed or ashamed, but because Cancer Girl, inspirational memoir, and what I have an idea for, which is my first book was The Club and the Club trilogy, a lot of sex. And I was like, again, not ashamed whatsoever. Everybody in my life knows. I know some authors who are like, my real life people don't know who I am. But all my family reads my books. My friends read my books. Everyone knows. So it's all good. So got that. And the thing was, having had a traditionally published book, the memoir about cancer, meant that I already had an agent. Now, again, the club and everything else has been self-pubbed, but I had an agent and I had a kind of network already, so that when I published the club and it hit USA Today bestseller list right out of the gate, I already had an agent who was like, now I'm going to sell it to France and Italy. And so it just kind of went on me because I didn't have to figure out what I was doing, in a sense. So that's why Lauren Rowe kind of came out like a cannonball.
What year was that? What year was the club published?
January of 2015.
Okay. I'm trying to remember.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's a good story for me because I mean, I got really, really lucky that also, here's a story. I had befriended a woman named Marie Force, whom you may know. She's an author, wonderful romance author. Yep. And I said, I just wrote this book and it's called The Club and it's going to be a trilogy. And she said, then don't publish it until you have books 2 and 3 ready to go. And then publish them all within weeks of each other. And so I was like, easy for you to say, fancy pants, man. You know, like, it took me forever to write. What? But she was right. I took her advice and I wrote 2 and 3. And then Lauren Rowe was nobody. But then when the club came out, I published number 2 and number 3 within weeks. And it was like the best advice. So if there's a new aspiring writer out there, I really do think you should think about banking some books, because let's say you have a hit, or let's say people like you, then you have nothing more to give them until you're seriously writing the next one. And they're going to forget you, even if they liked you. It's just hard. There's so much content out there. So better to have the next book and the next, at least for them to be able to read quickly if they like you. You know what I mean? I got lucky. Marie Force, I tell her every time I see her, I'm like, thank you.
Is that how you wrote the Morgan Brothers series? Did you bank those too, or did those just?
No, unfortunately, I didn't. Because frankly, so what happened was I wrote this thing called The Club, right? And then I wrote the Josh and Kat trilogy, which is related to that. And that was 7 books. And in the 7th book, we go home with Kat Morgan and we meet her family. And sitting at the table are all of her 4 brothers and her parents. And we meet this family. But at the time, I had been known for pretty alpha hole. I mean, not really. Like I say, not really. But Josh and Jonas were more your typical romance hero. You know what I mean? Then I write this family that these guys are not your typical romance hero. I mean, they rhyme, but you know what I mean? Like, they're goofy, they're silly, they call each other nicknames, weirdos. And especially Keen Morgan is the weirdo of all. And that's what I chose to write first. So if you look at that series, you'll see he's book number 3, but actually I wrote him first and put him out first. Then I backtracked and wrote Colby and Ryan, and then I called those 1 and 2. So when Ball Peen Hammer came out, which is Keen Morgan's book, he didn't have a number 3, he didn't have a number 1. He was just Ball Peen Hammer. And the reason, so here's my point. I thought the world was going to hate this book. So I did not bank it and write more. I thought, this is a one-off. This is for me. Everyone's used to me writing The Club and these, billionaires. And now I'm going to write this nut job guy with blue hair who talks like, what? Ooh, what? And so I was shocked because it was a huge hit. And then I went, oh, I better write the rest of the brothers. So I just didn't know I was going to write them all because I thought that it was going to tank. And why would I continue to throw my time at something that was going to tank? But it didn't tank.
Right. And
that's crazy you say that, because the 3rd book is my favorite of the Morgan Brothers. That's my favorite to hear.
It's hard for me to choose, but I think maybe that one might be my favorite too.
I feel like that one and Xander. Xander are my 2 top favorites. I love Aloha so much.
Yes. You're gonna, I was gonna say you're gonna love the duet because and then you've read the duet. You're like the only person in the entire world who's read the duet. Aloha is in the duet, and I just love bringing my old characters back in and having them play a meaningful role, because I can't let go of these characters. And I actually wanted to bring Keen and Maddie in, but I couldn't, because based on the timeline, they were having their baby.
Okay.
Parties, I couldn't, but and this is just how my crazy author mind works. In this parallel universe where this book it's not actually a parallel universe, in the same universe, on a parallel timeline, the duet is happening. And I knew that Keen and Maddie were having their baby, Billy, whom we've heard of in other bonus epilogues and stuff. And I was like, oh, they wouldn't be going out. They would be nesting.
So let's talk about the timeline of this new book. Like, where does that land in the Morgan Brothers universe, like timeline wise? So it's while Keen and Maddie are having their babies. What's happening with the other brothers and Reed during this time? Oh, can you not say?
I know exactly when it takes place.
If it's okay, you don't have to say it if it's a spoiler. I was just curious.
Charles, help.
I can say. You can say around the Reed Rivers trilogy. There's a scene. Yeah, it's like smitten. It's like I don't want to say too much spoilers, but like there's a scene that overlaps between all three. And that's one thing I have to say, Lauren, that I absolutely love. Like some romance authors have all these side characters and they spin off romances. I'm like, wait, who is that character again? And like in your books, I'm like, okay, I remember that character. Yeah. The character was in this book with this person and this happened. And it's like,
they have such big personalities.
Like, especially when you overlap scenes, I'm like, I absolutely love this. I'm like, how many? I need to know who in your mind you're going to write about next, because I was like, I don't even know who you could choose. Like, there's so many people that are in this world.
Next, you can say who you think. Based on, I've given it away, I think, in the duet, which you have not read, Brie, but Charles has. I feel like I've telegraphed it.
I feel like you did, but it's like slipping my mind right now.
I can tell you who I want.
Who you want?
I want the parents. I want the parents' story.
But they're on my list. You know what I want to do? I want to write a prequel of them. I want to write them in the 80s. And then I want
do it.
And I'm giving it away, but I don't care. I want the book to end with them having a baby, and his name is Colby.
Why did I get goosebumps? Just
that's what I want.
I'm like, can I have the arc for that book now?
I know, I want that. So that's on my list. The problem is I have so many books I want to write, and I don't write really fast, and I don't churn it out, you know? So I kind of want to the loop on this universe that I'm in right now, to be honest, which is, okay, what are my options? Colin is 22 Goats. He's the only member we haven't heard from.
Oh.
Play a part significantly in the duet.
Interesting.
Another person.
I feel so silly that I didn't remember that, because I really liked this character, and I thought while reading it, I was like, he has to get a romance after something happens.
I feel like
XYZ.
Yeah. But I'll be honest, I'm starting writing my new book on Monday. So that's why I said, what do you want? I have thought of that prequel of the Morgans so many times, and I already have it sketched out, like I said. But in terms of my business plan, which not that tied to, because as they've probably seen, I do weird things. I follow the muse. It just really doesn't make sense for me right now, though, to get swept away writing a prequel to the Morgans. I feel like that's a palate cleanser when I've closed certain loops. That's how I feel, because I feel like if I go there, I'm not going to come back. And if I don't come back, people are going to be mad at me. But back to the point about same scenes being in different books and on the same timeline. I've done it multiple times through my book. And it doesn't matter which ones you read in which order, but just as an example, in Colby's book, this is called Hero. There is a party at Climb and Conquer, which is the climbing gym that the Faraday brothers have. We go there, and we have a very important scene for Colby. He meets his future stepchildren. That's not a spoiler. It's a romance, people.
Right.
People are gonna have a happily ever after.
Right.
You know, if you don't know that by now, I'm sorry, but they're gonna have a happily ever after. In Captain, we go to that same party at Climb and Conquer. And Ryan has a very important scene at Climb and Conquer where he is meeting with Hen and getting some results of some research while someone is walking around that party not being seen.
Yeah. It's so frustrating. You're like, she's right there.
And if you read that scene of those two brothers, you'll notice stuff happening in the background, okay? Someone's on stage, a band is playing a certain song. All these things are because that scene's origin is in the club series. I believe it happened in Josh's books. Yeah. It happened in Josh and Kat's books. And it's a very important scene for Josh and Kat. And so that's 3 different books where the exact same scene happens, and you don't have to read them in order, but you will, if you were to open all 3 books and look at that scene, you'd be like, oh, she's insane. She's crazy. Because I'm telling you, I went back and made sure the right song was playing by the band at the exact moment. I made sure that when Ryan leaves to go talk to Hen, he's already spoken to Colby at the exact right moment in Colby's book. In other words, they all plot exactly down the line. There's not a single mistake. And then with these books, Reed Rivers Trilogy, Smitten, and now this new duet that I have, the Hate Love duet, same thing. There's a certain party that happens in all three, and the right things are happening at the right time. And
I know exactly what it is. I know the party. I remember what happens in the other two books.
And then wait till you get to Love Hate Duet Brie.
So it's all right. And I had to not only timing of that event, but okay, how many weeks later was this event at Madison Square Garden? So I have to make sure that, like, I never screw up the timeline. I never use poetic license with that. If it happens, it happens. And that's now reality. And that's why I say, for instance, Keen Morgan and Maddie, his wife, couldn't partake in the Hate Love duet because in other places I'd made sure to know that she was pregnant and she was expecting. She's got to be home with the baby.
And I notice things like that, like in books. I'm like, wait a second, aren't they doing this at this time? And I'll notice those things, and it's distracting. So it's nice when it's all together. Like, how do you do that? Do you have like a huge overarching timeline on your wall? Like I'm picturing a map with the strings and stuff. Like, how do you? Yes,
you miss my mind.
It's all there.
Yeah, kind of thing. You know, ask me if I have a Bible and everything in a nice 3-ring binder. I don't. It's all in my head. And then I go back to each book and I'm like, okay. Sometimes in the middle of writing, I take out a notebook and then I write down the important things. Like, okay, this is 3 weeks later. This is 6 weeks later. So I don't screw it up. But no, I don't have it. And that's why I think I'm insane, because these people are real to me. Like, this is what I say. Like, do you know your cousins' names? Do you know your aunt and uncle's names? Do you know your brother? These are real people to you. You're not going to forget their names. You're not going to forget important stuff you've done with them, right? That's what I know about my characters. I know it's insane, but they're real to me at this point, and therefore I don't forget what Ryan speaks like, what Colby speaks like, what Keen speaks like, what Reed speaks like. They're all real, so they have, when they come a page and they enter a scene, I'm like lit up because I hear their voice in my head, and I'm like, oh yay, hi, and then they'll say something through me that I wasn't expecting, but it's very true to them, and they're just real. So I have a problem. Clearly.
And that's like one of the things I love about your books is that all the characters are so distinguishable. Like, I won't mix up one character. I'm like, oh wait, is that one character? Oh no, that may be this other heroine in like this other book. Where like some romances, like you could have like multiple spin-off books. And I'm like, okay, wait, who's this character? Where do they show up in that book? But like, especially when I was reading like the Reed Rivers trilogy, and then I read Smitten, I was like, it just started going back, and then I like went back and read the Morgan Brothers, and I was like, oh my goodness, all these connections, like it makes the books like so much like rereadable. And that's one thing that I really, really love about your books is that you can go back and like you can try different orders to like see the scene from a different perspective before going into another book and reading the same scene from a different perspective. But yeah, I absolutely love like those Easter eggs. It's like Marvel, but in romance books.
Right. It's like Marvel.
That's what Lauren Rowe is doing. That's what you're doing right now.
Easter eggs galore. So many Easter eggs. And only a true reader would know that. And if you don't know that, that's fine. Like I recently, and I'm embarrassed to tell you, I recently watched WandaVision, and I have not seen any Marvel. And my family was like, are you okay over there? Why are you doing this? And I'm like, I love it. I don't know any Easter eggs, but I'm loving it. It's so great. And so I know that sounds crazy, but I saw Iron Man, and I think I saw the one with Chris Evans. I don't know, Captain America.
I don't know,
I haven't seen any others, and I loved it. I loved it, you guys. I loved it. And my family thinks I'm crazy. So the point that I'm trying to make is my hope is that people can read my books, and if you've read all of them or most of them, you're like, oh, Easter eggs, how crazy. And you pick up Smitten, for instance. I have a lot of new readers who picked up Smitten for the very first time, and they don't know anybody. And they were like, this is my favorite book of 2020. They haven't read a single other book. And then they get to go back and find backstories of all these people.
Like what a treasure mine that must be. Like that's where you're entering, and you think like it's because it's a standalone, but you're like, just wait, there's a whole world. Like exactly.
That's really, truly my conscious goal is to be like, not that I know what it is, but the Marvel comics of romance.
But it is like that. It's like it's so amazing, like
Well,
because like you can go back and just like find out all these characters. I'm like, wait, does that character have like? Let me check if that character has a romance.
yeah.
Oh wait, they have their own book.
Yep.
It's just like fun connecting the dots, especially for readers, and it makes your books like much more rereadable because you can read it as just like a fun story, and then you can read it like go back and reread them. And you're like, oh wait, I didn't see this how this connected to this, and like this timeline. Like I can make like a timeline video. Like me and Bree should make a timeline video of like charting all the scenes in Lauren's book that happen concurrently, all the Easter eggs. Like we map out all the characters that she has yet to tell a story about, and like so we sent these to Lauren, and we're like, these are the books that we need.
Fan theory.
Fan theory.
I need that desperately.
It's a fandom's dream because not only are there Easter eggs, but you have music, like actual music that they wrote, like whole songs. Smitten, I listen to all the time. It's my daughter's favorite song. She has to listen to it all the time. And then music videos. Reed Rivers has his own website. You can get the shirts now, like their magazines. Like it is a fandom lover's dream, and it's so rare in romance to have that. That's like typical for like YA fantasy and stuff. You have a whole like fandom and stuff, but you give us such great things. Like if you're a hardcore fan, it's the most dreamlike thing. It's the best part.
Yeah.
That's my joy, is that I have, if anyone out there is watching and doesn't know, if you go to my website, laurenrowebooks.com, you can click on Reed Rivers, River Records. And yeah, there's music videos, original music, because I'm a songwriter. So you can click on, there's magazine covers and then actual articles that are there that are formatted to look like a real magazine. And there's a blogger who's like kind of like a Perez Hilton kind of thing, gossip articles, and there's everything there, and it's so fun because if you go there right now, you're going to say this woman's crazy. But what you don't realize is I've been building this for now years, and so yes, there's there, but you know, I started slow and it kept going, and it's going to keep building. I mean, wait till you see the stuff for the duet.
Can't wait. It's great if you have a book hangover. Like if you have a hangover from any of your books and you want more, just go to all of that stuff.
Bree, just wait. Like the Love Hate duet, like put me in like a book hangover. I had to like take a moment and like, cause oh my goodness, like there's some steam in this book. I was like, Lauren, like this is like a whole other level in this book. I'm like,
really?
I devoured it so quickly. And Bree knows, like, I'm a slow reader and, like, I'm mostly audiobooks, but I just devoured these books. I was like...
Oh, so you read the ebooks, too. That's saying something.
I read the ebooks. That's saying something for me.
Oh, wait. If you love audiobooks, you guys, I had to prove the audiobook. It's Andy Art and Jacob Morgan.
I love them.
And I wrote a bunch of original music for the duet because both main characters are music artists. And so the music's in the ebook. You can click and it sends you to a page where you can hear the music, but the music's also in the audiobook, of course. I feel like, Charles, you can be honest, but I feel like it takes it to another level in terms of getting to know the characters because the voices really sound like the characters.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
so
I really like the addition of music in this world where you like it with Smitten and the Love Hate duet. I love getting those songs. Like it's like it makes the book come to life and you understand the characters' motivations and understand the characters so much more. And one of the things I was really interested, like, when did you decide to like tell their story? Did you already have like them planned on deck when they appeared in the Reed Rivers trilogy? I won't say like when they do. I feel bad. Like I don't want to accidentally like spoil some things for people, but it's connected to the Reed Rivers trilogy. Like, did you know like when you were writing that initial trilogy, you're like, I want to come back to these two in the future?
Okay, well, let's see. Yes, I included Layla Fitzgerald in both the Reed Rivers trilogy and Smitten. She's not a huge character at all, so if someone hasn't read me, feel free to jump into this duet. You're not missing anything. But her name was mentioned several times, and that's because I was like, she's my next heroine. Then, so I actually normally think of the dude first, and then I have to come up with the woman, but I knew Layla was my next heroine. And then there was this guy that was mentioned in the Reed Rivers trilogy named Savage, and Reed calls him a lady killer, and he does not want this guy interacting with Georgina. There's two guys at the party he mentions. He goes, I don't want him near.
I love that scene.
I don't want her near, I think it was Endo. I don't know. I also mentioned him in another book. Anyway, Reed is like, get the hell away from my woman. And so you just have this little scene of him dragging Savage away from Georgina. And when I went back and I was looking for the right match for Layla, I was like, bingo. I found my muse. And then what happened was I found, believe it or not, I found this photo and I just fell in love with it. And that solidified it for me because this guy is definitely not a character that I had talked about in detail. He's not Colin, he's not C-Bomb, he's not Dean from Red Car Riot, which are all on my list. I was like, who is this guy? And the minute I realized, oh, he's Savage, I bought the photo and was like, had the photo before I started writing, which I don't always have. So therefore, I stared at this photo while writing. And I mean, come on.
It's beautiful.
It's a beautiful cover. Like I saw the cover, I was like, whew. I was like, I think this is like trying to unseat the Rivers trilogy in my heart. Like this duet came really, really close. I was like,
those are big words, Charles.
Brie, you don't understand. Like the steaminess in the scenes and the enemies to lovers banter between our two main characters. Like, I'm living my best life right now. Like,
I love that.
I love this so much.
Enemies to lovers before because Reed and Georgina banter. They were never enemies.
I don't think they're really enemies.
Captain was like insta love to enemies.
To enemies. Okay, so I did it once, but I've never written an extended like enemies to lovers trope where I'm like this. I'm digging in, and man, what was really a challenge is in writing enemies to lovers. At least for me, my challenge is like I want them both to be right. I want them both to be right, and I want them both to be wrong. I want them both. I don't want one to be like an asshole and one to be shining, Yeah. I want them both to be mistakes, but I want you to go, well, if I were in your shoes, yes, I would totally understand that. Yeah. And so that was what was so fun about it is neither one does something that's like life or death, but they continue to antagonize each other for reasons that are kind of understandable. Not mature, mind you, but understandable. And so what was really fun is just like letting loose with the enemies to lovers trope and really having fun and having it be extended with a duet. But okay, so here's the thing. Like, again, this book's called Falling Out of Hate with You. So I really took that to heart. I'm like, hate. This book is about hate. Hate sex, yes, but hate.
Yes.
And then I was like, okay, turn the page. This book is now we're going to fall in love. And so I took the book for them to fall in love. So I didn't do it like, I didn't just snap. But the point is, this one really is a hate book, and this one really is a falling in love book. And I tried to make that line really obvious. And so right from the get-go on book 2, the heroine learns some things that causes her to go, oh, oops, sorry, And so off we go.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think you do that so well because I think enemies to lovers can be like a really almost tricky trope to like get right because sometimes they can just be borderline, just like they absolutely just hate each other, and then somehow the author manages to whip it around really quick, and they're like, boom, they have hate sex.
Like, wait, didn't you just hate each other?
Let's do it. HEA, like they have kids, they're married in one book, and you're like, wait.
They
I was like, you didn't work through anything.
Super fun. Don't get me wrong. They go so hard on the hate, but I don't really remember when they fell in love. Like, when did that happen? When did they even like each other? When did they fall in love and they just declare it? Oh, I'm secretly in love with you, but yet you hate me. I don't.
For the whole
and then
entire
there's no
book.
groveling. Like if they're mean to each other, and then no one grovels, and they don't feel bad, and I'm always like.
For me, that's why I needed it to be a duet, just for my own storytelling. I think Charles, you'll probably back me up on this. I don't think this could have been one book. I'm not milking anything.
It could have.
All 2 books. I truly, for storytelling, it had to be a hate book and a falling in love book, and I couldn't do it all in one book to do it justice.
I completely agree. Like I was like, wait, why is it a duet? Then as I read it, I was like, oh, okay. And especially when you get to the second book, you're like, okay, like this would have been way, way, way too much to like jam pack into one book. Like I would probably been like, okay, this story needs to breathe a little bit. Like, exactly. I mean, they really like absolutely hate each other's guts.
Yes.
But then when the second book and the relationship that they develop, I was like, you guys are so adorable. I love you. Like you guys are like literally the same person, just like different gender. Like I was like. And one of the things I loved is that there's no like overly heavy, like annoying miscommunication. involved in the book, because I feel like a lot of times some authors can use that to fuel pretty much the whole enemies to lovers, when you're like, wait, you could just like ask this one question and then boom, everything would have been resolved.
I think there's a slight miscommunication at the
This
very.
is like,
She misunderstands a look, I guess I'll say. But it's very understandable. She thinks he knows something he doesn't know. So when he gives a look, she thinks he's replying to the thing she thinks he knows. And anyway, she takes offense. You know, I love that people forget this, but you know, human beings, we communicate through body language far more than words, far more. And so you'll notice in my books, people exchange looks. Georgie and Reed, we've talked about. Their whole first meeting is not with words. They're shooting each other.
They just look.
They're just looking at each other and go, you know, a whole scene. And I love that. And I think, I don't know, speaking for myself at bars and everything, I've had full conversations with strangers across a room. Or if something funny, people are dancing funny or something, and I'm not being mean, but we'll both be like, we're strangers, but we're both like commenting on the dancing.
We're like looking at like,
It's a whole conversation. And so I just think you can't overlook that when you're writing human interaction. You have to have nonverbal communication, and that can be just as sexy and infuriating. And someone can say something but be condescending with their tone. I mean, there's a lot of ways to dislike someone even though they didn't say anything particularly insulting.
Well, I think that's why you're so good at writing chemistry, because you show, you don't tell. And that's one thing that I feel like I notice from a lot of romances is if I don't have buy-in in it, I notice it's because they're telling me there's chemistry and they're telling me they're attractive instead of showing me that they're attracted to each other, showing me that they have like chemistry and everything. And your books always show that. So even that's why you can do insta love so well, because you show the chemistry. Like there's no way these people can't be together because they're so perfect for each other. And and you're not just saying like, he thinks that she's hot and they are attracted to each other. It's like you see it, you feel it between them because of like the body language and everything and all the subtext.
I am thank you. That's a huge compliment, and I'm greatly appreciative of it. And I want to just mention on Insta Love, I mean, I don't believe in Insta love.
Right, Insta lust.
Insta lust.
I mean, if you haven't experienced that, I feel sorry for you out there. And I don't mean that to sound mean, but I mean it like sincerely. If you haven't experienced that, I'm sorry, because it's super fun. And so to that chemistry where you're like, whoa, blown over by the chemistry is an amazing thing. And then when you get to talking to someone and you've already had that spark and you're like, I don't even have to explain myself. You get my joke, you get my humor, sentences. Well, right there, you don't see anyone else in the room. You're not going to keep looking. You're just like keyed in. And then you're like really feeling like if that person goes away, like take Captain, for instance, they meet in a bar, they have an amazing chemistry, they're having amazing conversation, and then something happens that pulls them apart. I think it's very credible that now, granted, you're projecting this perfect person on this other person, but you're like swiping and bored and you're not finding that chemistry. Yes, you're going to start saying, okay, I want that person. I want that back. I want to pursue that. And, you know, most people are groove with me on that, but there's a small minority. They're like, Insta, I can't read Insta love. And I'm sort of like, if I am doing it right for you, if I'm telling you that these people sincerely are like kaboom, and I'm showing you why, then why not? And I feel like maybe that's a blocker in your own life. Like, open up. People really do connect quickly if they're open to it and they meet the right person. There's a kabam that happens, and it's freaking awesome. And I don't blame people for getting addicted to that feeling.
And you definitely get that in this book.
I was going to say, like, it's kind of interesting because I feel like a lot of people that don't like insta love tend to like fated mates tropes in paranormal romances, like where there's like some type of like explanation, like they just have this inexplicable bond, but then you switch it into contemporary and some romance readers are like, no. Like they can't be saying I love you by like page, like chapter 3 in the book. And that's like one thing is like going off of what Bree was saying, that you do a lot of showing, you don't do a lot of telling. One of the things that makes a good romance for me, and one thing that I see demonstrated in your books throughout all your books, is that you explain to the reader why these two characters matter, why they're meant for each other, why of all the characters in this world, why these two characters work. Because I feel like I read a lot of romance and I leave some romances being unsatisfied. I'm like, I don't buy the romance. Like this could have been another heroine or another hero. Like if I don't even remember your name or remember the title of the book, I just go like hero A and I just give you a trope, that's a bad sign. Because like it was just interchangeable. You could have just threw any characters. You could have made this sci-fi, contemporary, paranormal. But if I don't buy the romance, I feel like that's what makes sometimes writing romance is a little bit difficult because you have to explain that chemistry. You can't just go like action scene, quest, and some other genres. So I really just love that you do a really great job of like building that romance and giving us like a happy ever after that's really earned.
Thank you very much. You know, it's funny when you say that, like, let's just take Rockstar, for example. This is Dax Morgan. He's the baby of the Morgan family. And the book is called Rockstar. So I'm writing Dax. I always knew I had to write Dax because he's the last brother. Well, who's going to be the woman for him? Well, guess what? What I wound up with is a woman who's in fashion school, art school, and a creative type. But guess what? When I first started writing, she was in business school. And when they met at a party at Reed Rivers' house, they had nothing to talk about. I didn't believe the connection at all. And I went, oh, crap, this isn't believable. I don't feel it. They were talking, but it was boring. And I didn't believe that they would have those sparks. So I scrapped everything and went back. And I made her a student, and all of a sudden I rewrote that same scene. They got each other. He's a songwriter, she's not, but she's an artist. And they suddenly were flowing. And they talked about flow, which is the state of being where time ceases to exist and you are in your creative zone. And all of a sudden she was the right person for him. And that's why it worked. But I refuse to proceed with the book if I don't buy it. And when I buy it, I feel it in my very soul. And same with Aloha and Xander for Mr. Bodyguard, for instance. See, Aloha is the female version of Keen Morgan. And so, of course, Xander falls in love with her. You have to find the right person. Like what I'm doing is psychoanalyzing whoever I'm starting with. Like, for instance, Xander Shaw, who is Mr. Bodyguard, he is best friends with the wackadoo dude, Keen Morgan. Lifelong best friend. Why are they best friends? Because he's a steadying force with his wackadoo best friend, because he's giving and patient and he's game for anything, but he's a steadying force. He's the stable one. He's game and funny and kind of, can be immature and silly, but he's the one that understands the anxiety that's hiding behind the mask. He understands. Then I had to find him the right person to save him, and he could save her. I mean, this is a long way of saying these personalities. I sometimes think, again, as an example, if I were to take, there's a couple, Jonas and Sarah were my first couple from the Club trilogy. And then there's Josh and Kat. If I were to swap, if I were to try to put Jonas with Kat and Josh with Sarah, this would not work. No. Same with Maddie and Keen, for instance. This is Ball Peen Hammer. They're stuck in a car together. Keen is a nut job. Well, then Maddie can't be a nut job. They're gonna have, gonna get arrested, and this isn't gonna work, and this is not gonna be romantic. This is gonna be people are dead. So like she's game, just like Xander, right? She's game. She's up for anything. She can be silly, but she's steady. She's ambitious. She's reasonable. You know what I mean? So like you have to put the right people together for the chemistry to work, or else you have this mess on your hands, and it's not believable. Just like real life. So I wind up being my character psychoanalysis expert. I sit there and I analyze their wants and needs and dreams and desires and give them what they need.
And it comes across on page. Like that's why it works out, and that's why it's believable, is because you believe it and you're the writer. So that's the most important part. You're not just writing it just to write it. Like you believe these characters.
Just like to pump out a book into the world. So like
I wish I would just pump out a book into the world sometimes. A lot of slave over these books, but at the end of the day, they're going to be out there forever. And I want people to go, if they, let's say they enter my world through Reed Rivers, I want them to then read the next one and the next one and the next one in any order, and believe that the quality has not dipped. It may not be your favorite one. You may have a favorite one over here, but the quality hasn't dipped. You know what I mean? It's not a shitty book. It's not I dialed it in. I never.
It's not out with the garbage. Like, what did Lauren Rowe write this time? Like, I can't believe it, but no.
Yeah, that's not her. She didn't write this.
I was like, that's not her. She had that ghost written or something.
I have to do that once in a while about a book I've written. Someone will go, I don't even think this was Lauren Rowe. This just didn't feel like her. And I'm like, oh my God, I spent 6 months writing this book. Me, I wrote it. Every word, I promise.
Yeah. One question I wanted to ask you, without giving too much spoilers about the love-hate, how did you already know like what the main conflict with I'm gonna be very vague with the Instagram? Did you always have that in mind as like the conflict to get, especially in the second book, there's, oh man, this is really hard. This is like really hard to say, like, and then that leads to like a show and being involved.
Right.
I'm being very vague, but I saw that I was like, Lauren, you're a genius for that, because like it works. It fits the character, and our heroine was like, oh my God, really? I love her. I love her agent.
Daria.
I forgot her agent's name.
Badass woman.
She's amazing. That negotiation scene between them. She's like, no, like you can give up more money. Being very vague, but I just wanted to know, like, did that come to you as you were writing, or you already knew like, boom, this is gonna be our twist? That kind of like forces these two characters back.
I knew that. So the way that I write is I don't outline in great detail, but sometimes an idea comes to me and it's not necessarily the beginning. I just know it's somewhere in the middle, and I'm like, oh, this happens. And what's funny is in writing the duet, for instance, I wrote the first scene, and the minute I wrote it, I knew it wasn't the beginning like I thought it was. And then I had to go back and write something like 10 chapters before that happened. So the point being, I sometimes jump into my own stories, what I think is the beginning, and it's not the beginning. And then I backfill, and then so I see certain scenes and I just jump in and start writing. And then that leads me either backwards or forwards to the next thing. But what you're referring to, there are certain twists in the duet, and those didn't even occur to me as twists. I know it now because I've had my beta readers have read it, my editor has read it, you've read it, my assistant's read it. That's it. But every person was like, oh, when that happened, I didn't see that coming. And I was like, oh, you didn't see it coming? Huh.
I did.
I can't predict I always think everything's so obvious. Like, of course this is going to happen. They're like, why would I predict that? Why would I ever predict that? And I'm so sure everyone's, oh, you're going to see this coming. This is so obvious. Like, it's not obvious at all. So then
I was like, what's that? What you said is obvious. I was like, I could have not prepared like that to like be a twist. I was like, oh.
But in my mind. In my mind, these things are so obvious. And then they're not. But I mean, I can't begin to explain how fun it is for me to read these reviews too, where people are like, the twist. And I go, what twist?
Yeah.
What's the twist? I'm not even kidding. I have no idea what the twist is. But apparently there's lots of twists. I knew that they wanted, okay, so to answer your question, there's a show that I knew they were going to do. And then there's a way that they get to the show that I knew was going to happen too. But I didn't know that it was shocking. And then it is shocking.
I was pretty shocked when I read it. I was like, when it took a second, I was like, I don't want to say too much, because like I feel like if I say it, like then Bree's like, why'd you spoil that big part of the book?
I'm so mad at you.
That's also what he's talking about, which I won't spoil, is a big reason why it had to be a duet, because something happens that sort of shifts the story to a new trajectory, a big one. And so it would have been whiplash. I would have had to chop out way too much to make this a single book. So anyway, I love these books, and I'm so excited. They're coming in 3 weeks. Although by the time anyone sees this, they're probably out. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
Yep. Links will be down below in the description box. So go buy the audio. Yeah, I really want to listen to the audio because I love your narrators that you have. So I'm like, I really want to listen to the audio and just experience the story again. I have all your other books on audio. So I just have like a Lauren Rowe shrine on my Audible account.
Thank you. These are really extra hot. The audiobooks are like smoking hot. Smoking.
You chose great readers for it, great narrators for them. So curious about that, because you did like all the Morgan Brothers series and everything. And then was the Reed trilogy the first one that you didn't narrate yourself? And then Smitten you didn't, and then this couple. Is there a reason why you decided not to?
Yeah, there was a few reasons. Okay, so let me walk you through my thought process. First of all, I was a professional narrator before I wrote my first Lauren Rowe book. So when it came time to do the narration of the first Lauren Rowe book, it made sense to me that I would do the narration because literally I was a professional narrator. So why would I hand it off? As it turns out, that's a blessing and a curse. I was too naive. I didn't realize it. But when people see that author Lauren Rowe, narrator Lauren Rowe, I got a whole lot of trolling, which said, leave it to the professionals, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not all. Lots of people also said, I love that you read your own books. Now I can see exactly the way that you meant it. And that's so cool. So don't get me wrong. Lots of positive reinforcement. But I'm not going to lie. It weighed on me to constantly have to, I can't put it out there like saying, I am a professional. You can't leave it to the professional. It just made me just like, God, I'm so tired of seeing this. Again, that wasn't the vast majority, but it's hard to subject yourself to yet another avenue of criticism when I'm already the author and I'm already getting my shitty reviews that I have to let roll off my back. So that wasn't the guiding thing, but I'm just telling you there's multiple factors.
Right.
More importantly, however, when I reached the end of the Morgan Brothers, I felt the need for a change. I knew that there are listeners who go by the narrator and not the author. And I thought, well, there's a whole world of people who are going to find narrators and don't even know my name. And I should try to find those people.
That's true.
And then number 3, I also just felt that John Lane, who had read all the prior books, who is fabulous, just wasn't right for Reed. I needed a new change for Reed. And when I made a change for Reed, I thought I should make a change for myself too, for the exact same reason. I just felt that listeners probably would appreciate a break from my voice. And so since I was doing new, I thought I'll just do completely new. And glory be, I don't have to listen to someone tell me to find a professional. That's kind of an incidental benefit.
You're an amazing narrator. Like, forget those haters. Like, I was like, you're an amazing narrator.
Thank you very much. And again, I don't want it to sound like that's the main thing.
Right.
But I will just tell you it's been a nice vacation, not opening up Audible and saying, hey, egomaniac, you're a
egomaniac.
Anyway, once I had Jacob Morgan on the Reed Rivers trilogy and Andy, when I listen to Andy's voice doing my words, she gets me. Her
comedic timing is big. Like
she does it really well.
Really, really does. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to stick with Andy for a while because I just feel safe with her doing my voice. Then I did Smitten and I kept Andy because she was perfect for Alessandra, but I felt that we needed a different kind of voice for Fish in that book. So I picked Tim Page, and luckily he
was amazing.
That was my first that I've ever heard him narrate, and he sings in it a little bit, and I was like,
he was amazing. My heart is aching with joy. It was so beautiful, and I thought, this is amazing. But going back to the duet, Savage is a combination of Keen Morgan. If Reed Rivers and Keen Morgan had a love child, it would be Adrian Savage.
That is a perfect combination. That makes absolute sense. It makes sense.
But he's also Keen Morgan wrapped in one, and that is really hard to wrap your brain around. But Charles,
it is.
I'm trying to think of how that works.
I back you.
Those are like
it
two
works.
totally
when
different.
When you read it, it'll make sense. I didn't think of that combination, but that's a perfect way to describe him.
It's exactly who he is.
It's exactly who he is.
He has a silly streak that he lets out with his best friends when he's feeling completely safe, and he only has a few really close friends, and he'd do anything for them, including something really stupid and crazy. But in his real life, he's very much more like Reed. He's got a wall up, and he's businesslike, and he's kind of got a big dick energy. So, but he's a goofball underneath it all. So I love him. So anyway, back to Jacob Morgan, because who else is going to have big dick energy? But
that's true.
Jacob Morgan.
So anyway, they're a brilliant duo. So to answer your question, I absolutely adore doing my own audiobooks because, like for instance, just as an example, Hero, in the opening chapters of Hero, the heroine who I voiced has a tragedy happen, and I'm sure another narrator would have been amazing, but I literally sobbed while doing that, and it was honest. And so, I just like to share that with my readers. This is what I mean. This is how I feel. I become that character. I've been that character for months, and so I feel it so deeply. And that's a real pleasure and a real honor for me to get to tell the story personally. But as I say, it was time for a change for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is, a business reason, just knowing that narrators have followings. And so it's been a good change. I think I will stick with other narrators for quite some time. If I ever do Mr. and Mrs. Morgan prequel, I might have to be the narrator, at least the female narrator, just because Mrs. Morgan is me and I am Mrs. Morgan. So I can't imagine not doing
I feel like if you did do that and put the audio, I'd be like, hey, Lauren, why aren't you narrating this one?
Yeah.
This is not I don't accept this audiobook. I need it to be re-recorded and with you narrating. You can send it back to me.
If that
like, what is Andy doing here?
One for you, Charles, and I'll just be like, here you go. This is your own personal version.
But I also want to talk to you about your Misadventure, the books that you have in the Misadventure series.
Oh, yeah.
There is, I think it's a night shift, Misadventures of a Night Shift.
Yes.
Lauren, that book, out of all the books, that is my number one, because I was like, I never knew that was a kink that I wanted to read. And I was like, I adore this. I need more. I need sequels.
I totally agree. And it's funny, that's not really the most talked about of my books, but I think it's freaking awesome. If I do say so myself, it's super kinky.
It's amazing.
Hot as hell. And I would, so the characters in that one are Lucas and Abby. And I would wish I could be Abby. If you asked me, who do you want to be in all your books? I would be like, Abby. Oh, but it's true. Yeah.
I absolutely where did that idea for that story come from? Because the kinks that are involved, for people who don't know, there's a little bit of I guess you call role playing, a role playing kink kind of type thing.
Voyeurism, some menage, some
menage. There's a lot going on, and it's a really short. I think the audio is maybe 5 or 6 hours, so not too long. So where did this idea for the story come from? Because this story is bananas, and I personally am I will nag you. I'm like, when are you gonna write more? When are you gonna write more books in this world? I need something like this, because it just blew my mind. I was reading this, I was like, Lauren. I was like, did she just do that?
Yeah, I love that one. Thank you. I love it. Okay, so what happened was, so the Misadventures are through a publisher called Waterhouse Press. And I signed a contract to do 3. And they had a word limit. And the word limit is 50,000 up to 60,000 tops. And all 3, I wrote 3. All 3 are exactly 60,000 words. Because I guess if you know me, I don't like to rush things. So that's why some people are like, I felt that the end was a little rushed. Not necessarily a night shift, but I've seen that about maybe Misadventures of a College Girl, which is one of the books I ever read.
That's my favorite of all time.
I absolutely love that one. With
love
all
it.
soul. But I could have, if I were writing it as my own and not for a publisher, probably gone another 20,000 words to.
I want those 20,000 words.
Yeah.
Just write me and Brie an epilogue, just for us. We will only be the ones every.
I know. So I don't own those characters. I wrote it for a publisher, and I can't continue writing in those worlds without writing for them. I'm sorry. And what happened was I finished writing Captain on a Friday, sent it to my editor, and then I had signed this contract that I don't normally write like this at all. And I was like, okay, I'm going to write literally that next Monday, I started writing Night Shift. And to answer your question, I just knew that she was a night clerk at a hotel, and I knew he was a rock star who was having a really bad day and was having some writer's block. That's all I knew. So I write my books differently. I also knew that I wanted to have it to be really extra smutty and let the imagination go. And so, no, I didn't have any outline. I just let the characters speak to me, and I just kept writing. And I decided I didn't care if someone thought I was a nut job or whatever. I love that book, and I love that. Okay, so there's you know who Shel Silverstein is? Where the Sidewalk Ends. It's kid poetry. There's a poem, and I'm paraphrasing in that book. I'm totally paraphrasing. But basically he says, She has blue skin. He has blue skin. They are embarrassed about it, so they cover their blue skin when they go out. And their whole life, they're searching for someone else with blue skin and passing each other, never knowing that they are passing another blue-skinned person. So what I wanted to do, that was what I had in my mind when I wrote Night Shift. She's a freaky deaky and he's a freaky deaky. Mm-hmm. And I felt like these two blue-skinned people found each other. There's no judgment. They just love each other and they love, they're kinky and they like it that way, and good for them. Good, you know, that's another match. And what I like in that book too is Abby spent her life being shamed for how sexual she is. She comes from a very conservative home. I allude to it. I don't go too into detail, but you know, I'm saying she comes from a really conservative home. And so she's been shamed for her sexuality. And Lucas, the rock star, is like, that's the best part of you, dude. You know, don't be ashamed of that. That's freaking awesome. And so she gets to feel good about herself and she gets to blossom. Yeah. So even though it's a dirty book, it's also, I think, a beautiful love story.
It is. I like that book kind of came out of nowhere. I was like, what? I was like, is this Lauren Rowe? Like this is like some kink. This is like some next level. And like I love how there's no shaming. They like you said, the two characters were into the freaky deaky and they're just like, do you want to do this? Okay. I always wanted to do this. Let's proceed.
I guess I must be a super freaky deaky. I really like that one. And also like I think it was freeing because it wasn't in my world. And so I got to write this book that was totally new characters and therefore they could be anything. And that just freed me. Like I say, I just finished writing Captain at the time. This was now years ago. And so to just kind of be like, I opened my computer, I had a deadline. I don't normally write like that either. And I had a word count thing and I was like, okay, and here we go. And it just, that's what came out of me. You haven't, Charles, you haven't read Josh and Kat's trilogy, right?
I haven't. Okay, that's why I couldn't say I'm right now number one, because that's the one trilogy I still need to read.
I'm not trying to push you anything, but now that I know you like Night Shift, you should read. They're super freaky deaky. Yeah, and there's Minaj in that one too, and there's. But like, if you want freaky deaky, dude, you want Josh and Kat. They spend the entire middle book just enjoying ech other's sexual fantasies. That's literally all the second book is about. Is what's your fantasy? What's your fantasy? Let's do it.
Right.
Let's do it again.
That's why I love Kat.
So my evening plans are like now set. I'm gonna go binge this trilogy.
Yeah,
that's gonna be like I'm just gonna be gone for the rest of the week. It's just like this is my trilogy right now. I need to finish this for the freaky deaky.
I like that.
I'm in the middle of doing a reading vlog for specific books, but I'm like, I'm ready to drop everything, just reread everything in advance of these new books. Like, I think for the next couple of weeks before it comes out, I'm rereading everything.
I mean, you don't have to do that, to be clear.
But I want to.
Someone can jump in and not have to do anything. But if you want to, you'll find that, especially if you've read Reed Rivers and Smitten, you're going to be like, oh, isn't she clever? Because, you know, there's that overlap several places. And it's fun. Yeah.
I think I might just do the Morgan Brothers and then Reed Rivers and then Smitten and then those. I think that's
You know, I think, I mean, I'm evolving as a writer, always evolving, but I feel like I'm enjoying the storytelling even more and more and more as I go. You know, like I'm not saying I don't love my past books, but I'm just saying like the ability to have this world just continue to grow and grow and grow. It just gets more and more fun to see what I can do with it.
Yeah.
So speaking of that world, so one of the questions I want to ask is like, if we can just dream and imagine for a little bit that the Morgan Brothers universe was made into a Netflix TV show, can we just like imagine what that would be like? Do we have some characters, like some actors that you would have in mind that you would want, a director you would want, a certain way it's filmed, certain scenes that you want to make sure it would be in there? Would you even want it to become a TV series?
Yeah. Actually, Ball Peen Hammer has come close to being picked up several times and it just keeps not happening. I think that I would love for there to be a series, but if I had to pick, it would be that one would be the most cinematic to start, just because they're in a car together and there's just so much dialogue in the book, and it's kind of when Harry Met Sally meets Magic
Mike.
Honestly, I think all of them are though, because in Captain, I mean, they have this destination wedding that they're going to, and then I feel like all of, and then you Rockstar, you have like a whole. I mean, the whole it could be a whole universe, and I feel like they could happen simultaneously. That's why it would work as a TV show to me, because you can have it doesn't have to be book one, like Keen's book is the first season, because you could just overlap everything.
You can just introduce.
Ideally,
like Bridgerton
series, and just like Bridgerton, and you know, we all are familiar with this storytelling, is that you're going to go here and then the next scene shifts to, okay, what's happening over here? We all know about that. I think that would be amazing. This is what I've learned, because I mean, I have been close several times. And what I've learned is that the person that you think, oh, this would be the perfect person, there's someone out there, I don't even know who they are. That's even better. And I just don't know who they are. And there's a casting director who it's their job to know who that person is. You know,
I would almost want some unknowns, and I would want
like
everyone maybe a director that people know to attract, like Shonda Rhimes did Bridgerton, so she's the one who attracted.
Shonda, adapt these books. Like, come on, like what she did with Bridgerton. I was like, that's like, I was kind of curious, like how she would adapt the books, but like the way she adapted it will work perfectly for your books. Like introduce all the characters and then like have a season focus on a particular romance, but then also setting up all the future ones and teasing some things out, like adding some other elements. I was like
I agree.
Netflix would do it. I feel like Netflix would do it justice.
I know. It has to be somewhere that it has to be sexy though. It has got to be sexy.
It has to be. And Netflix is just like, they did 365 days. Like Netflix doesn't have to care about ratings.
I know. I said that to my agent when 365 Days was #1 in the world on Netflix. I sent that and I was like, look, because in the early years of people, we did a lot of meetings with producers and places for the actual club series. People were interested in turning that into a series at first. Now people are interested in the Morgans. But I did go to a lot of meetings, and a lot of them at first were like, but they're really, really spicy. And I would be like, yeah, but that's what people want.
That's what people want.
That was years ago, but now you look at what's #1 in the world. And I mean, did you watch 365? I didn't watch it, but I watched him come out and go and spit all of her juices out. So if you can have on Netflix a dude eat her and spit her juices out, then you can have the Morgan.
It got a lot steamier than that too. Like that wasn't even.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, I watched.
Yeah.
The yacht.
Because I'm like, come on. I mean,
and that was like the longest montage ever too. It was so long.
Fuck. I mean, come on. People, I guess, can handle this, you know. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I would love it. It would just have to be done right, though. That's the only thing is, you know, they'd have to capture the spirit. They'd have to let Keen be weird. They'd have to, you know, it'd have to, like, I don't think readers would accept it if they just were boring people. They have to really find these magnetic, charismatic actors who could actually portray these very well-rounded, interesting people.
And then the chemistry between each of them would have to be so strong. I feel like it'd be so good. Like that, to me, that would be the perfect like Netflix TV show.
Thank you.
Me too.
Yeah, that's definitely on my bucket list, but it's outside of my control. I do have good people in place trying to make it happen. It's just a tough road, but I never rule it out because I keep getting close.
It's gonna happen. Like Netflix is. I have a feeling after Bridgerton, like there's just gonna be so many more romances that Netflix is gonna snatch up, and then you're just like, wait, I'm just waiting for the day they announce like they're gonna do Immortals After Dark by Cressy Cole. I'll be like, or JR, like, or any of these big paranormal series. I'm like, yes. I was like, why hasn't people adapt these books? The romance books in general have like sold like millions, if not billions, of copies, but yet everyone wants to adapt like Harry Potter or like drill that for all it's worth. But like, there's so many other like really amazing books that are like selling like crazy, like, especially in the indie space. And, like everyone's like, nah, like we'll get around. Like
years ago, people looked down at indie, and what people don't realize is that literally, okay, to start with, just so you know, romance is the biggest selling genre in all of books. Indie sells at least, and it's probably more, 80% of all romance. So that tells indie is like a force, and there's nothing. ashamed of. We're not the reject pile, dude.
Right.
My grandma wrote a book like 20 years ago, and it was a self-published book. And she literally had to buy boxes of the book and then hand them out to her family. Okay, I get it. That's what people think self-publishing is. Like, look, I wrote a book. Here's my book. It's not like that anymore. We're pros. We have, we're just skipping the middleman. We just don't have a gate.
Exactly.
But
and you can write about what you want to write about, which is the best part. And I can read about what I want to read about.
Exactly. It can be not to be, which, by the way, look, again, we're talking about 365 and the spit scene between my legs. That's what we want. So let's just call it what it is. We want to see it. We want to see the people getting it, That's part of the storytelling. If it's a romance, people having sex matters.
Yes.
Sorry. Big part of it. A lot happens during those moments. You learn a lot about that person.
Amen.
That is so true.
I didn't realize that indies were such a big percentage, though. I knew about the romance just being like one of the biggest powerhouses. It's what keeps the light on in publishing, but I didn't realize that indies played such a big part in it.
Yeah, that's a new statistic. I just read it this year.
Wow.
So it's huge, you guys, and
that's validating to me because I read so many indie authors.
And also, I'll tell you from my traditional publishing experience, not the Misadventures. Those people were amazing and great. They get it. But my earlier with like the memoir that I told you about early on, or did I not tell you? Whatever. I've been a traditional author, and people they just are kind of clueless about what people want. I feel like, and we indies we're in the community. We are talking to readers. We're out signing. We're in groups, and I feel like we get what you want to read. We're one of you, and there's so many cooks in the kitchen at so many of these publishers, and they just don't even understand what people want to read. So, I feel like there's it doesn't take 2 years for me to get you my story, and I can put the cover on it that I want. I can put the book together that I want. And I don't have some editor going, that's too spicy, tone that down.
Right.
Or for instance, Misadventures on the Night Shift that Charles mentioned. God help me, that would never have made it through a traditional.
Oh, that would have been a hard push.
Sorry,
this is too much, Lauren.
But no, at Waterhouse Press, which is the publisher, they're a group. They take indie authors and publish. They're like, yeah, baby. They get it.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because too, like, I just noticed with like programs like KU or like Audible, if Audible Escape, KU, I would say like is mostly romance, like where like a lot of people where I feel like they get a lot of their business. Like I wouldn't go to KU thinking I want a mystery or a thriller or a literary fiction. I go there because I want my like weird smutty novella that like it's like 28 pages, but it just gives me exactly what I need.
You want your kissing the coronavirus.
just like out there ideas though. It's just like that I just want. And it's interesting that you see these programs and it's mostly romance books. They get populated. I don't think because I think there's like we just said, there's just a huge market for romance, especially indie. I think I pretty much only I pretty much say I'm like 90% indie and 10% traditionally. Sometimes with traditionally published, I'm like, I wish you could just like gone a little bit darker or went a little bit over here that I can just like go find an indie author and they're just telling like the darkest romance story. I'm like, yes. I was like, yes.
Do not hold back.
No, they don't.
No, they don't.
I'm very lightweight compared to what some people where they go. More power to them again. But I know my limits. I'm like, stuff like, wow. And that's great. It should be that. And I will guarantee you that if there's too many editors, they're worried about, their marketing data. Their marketing data. They need to be careful. Better to appeal to people being, how do I say this? Like, I want to just give it my all, and I'm not for everyone, but the people who I am for are going to fucking love it.
Yeah.
Versus like 3-star. I don't want to be a 3-star author. I want to be a 1-star author because, like, what the fuck is her problem? These characters are talking and joking. What the fuck is it? I want to be that, or I want to be 5-star. This is so fun. I love this family. I love these people. I get it. I feel like I'm there. I love it. That's what I want. I don't want to be 3-star. And I do get 3 stars, but I don't want to be that. My goal is to be one or the other. Love me or hate me. But don't go.
Yeah.
Mm,
Take it or leave it. I don't want that.
mhm.
That's my goal.
Yeah. I think like just with me and Brie, I think most people like love your books.
Right.
Like the Reed River trilogy, like that's my favorite. Like that's like I can't say enough. Like that one's near and dear to my heart. Like I
Why?
devoured those books
Tell me why, so I can
because
write.
I love like that alpha whole hero and just like the feisty alpha female. Like
Yeah.
that just does something for me when you pair them together and they're on equal footing. Because like I get like with some romances, like with dark romance, I'm like, oh yeah, I like the power imbalance. But like mostly in the contemporary space, I want a female character that can like stand toe to toe with like the alpha over the top hero and like put him in his place.
Right.
I just like love their banter and love their sexual tension so much because it feels like they are on equal footing. And she's just like that. This is the first book where she's like, "You just call me a hoe. Like, why would I go sleep with you now?" And he's like, "Just get in the house. Everyone has a price." And she's like, "No, I'm leaving. Bye."
I love
I just love that moment because I was just like,
you.
I like.
You know,
like it.
Art actually texted me after she narrated that scene, and she was just like, "Woo!" I love that scene too, just because you don't
Me
expect
too.
for her to walk away. Good for her.
What are some of your favorite scenes?
I would have like, call me whatever you want. I'm coming in.
Yeah, I know.
My favorite scenes.
Yeah, some of your favorite scenes across all the books you've written. What are some of your favorite?
Oh gosh. Okay. Okay, I love the bromance with Xander and Keen. Anytime they're smoking pot.
Yes.
Yes.
Pretty much anytime any Morgan is smoking pot is one of my favorite scenes. Possibly in Hero, I think they sit back and smoke some pot because Colby's ill, and pot feels good when you're in pain. Any pot scene, just know, is one of my favorite scenes. Probably the scene with Georgina, like we just mentioned in the Reed Rivers, she tells him off. I love it because he's never tasted that before. And that's shocking to him. And she's not doing it to play him. She's very sincerely just letting him know, no, not everyone has a price. And she's so feisty.
Yeah.
And I love that. There are several scenes in Smitten that are some of my all-time favorite scenes just because it was such a departure for me. And in one way it is, and in one way it's not. It's in my world. You get to know these characters. It's still my sense of humor. But I had never written, there's no angst. There's no conflict. And that's book, but also why some people love the book, especially out in 2020. We're all in our homes with COVID. And it's like, I don't want there to be sad things. I want
You just want to feel good.
Yeah, so there's a scene in that. It's a spoiler, so I can't say. Never mind. Never mind. There's a scene in the Reed Rivers trilogy where he gives her a necklace and then she crawls across a table wearing it and nothing else. And I don't know why, but I just love that scene. And in the end of the book, book 2, she gets angry at him for a very good reason, and she does something to one of his cars. I don't know. I just love that scene.
I love that scene too.
Like a violent woman.
One of my favorite scenes is in Misadventures of a College Girl, and it's like the morning after, and they go out with all their friends, and they're at like Denny's or something. The banter is the trying to make her laugh and everything was the cutest thing ever. It made me fall in love with all of their friends and her and them as a couple. Oh my gosh, I love that scene so much.
I love that scene, and that's actually based on a true story. I'm Zoe. That's me. I laugh at anything. I love it. To be like on the road with comedians. I'll just be like, and I'm so sincere. I'll laugh at anything. And I can't do the staring game because I'll laugh. And so I love that scene. And actually, one of my all-time favorite scenes in that book is anytime that she has curly hair, and anytime he pulls out one of her curls. These aren't scenes, but moments. Like that to me was so beautiful because you could tell he just adored her, and her curly hair made her. And he just was staying with that simple gesture. Like he's just adoring her. And I love that. And I also love, there's a scene, this is kind of a spoiler, but he's calling this dude nerd, and she's taking him to for that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was silly. I mean, it's a silly book, but I love how he's like, okay, so, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
See,
He lets her go off.
such a dick. If I weren't such a dick, then you'd listen to me if I weren't doing that thing.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Yes, that is right. If you were not what you are. But if I weren't, just
He messes with her so hard. And
I know. I
love that one.
They're
and when they
mean
do
cute. I
the
love that mean
experiment, the experiment that they do.
I really love that book. I felt
So
after
good.
writing Misadventures of a College Girl, I thought, this is terrible to admit. I really hope you don't misconstrue me, but I thought I should hang it up. I felt at that moment like I don't think I could ever write a better romance. I think I'm done. If romance is meant to make you feel kind of giddy and have butterflies,
Yeah.
like I felt like I can't do better. They're so cute. They're so sweet. And they're
Such
so
a healthy relationship too.
Yeah.
and
That's so
supportive
healthy.
of each other.
Yes.
And also, she's a virgin and there's this consent scene her first time and he's making sure she's comfortable and making sure she's safe, but it's still sexy. I did it again in Smitten. I'm big on consent. I realize in our genre, not everyone is. And
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
big on
true.
consent and I have 2 daughters and that's what I want to put out into the world.
Mhm.
And so those are also 2 of my favorite scenes. It's just the de-virginization scenes. I've done 2, only 2, and I've written 20 plus books. And in both, the guy is what I consider to be the ideal partner for that moment.
Right.
So caring,
Mhm.
so gentle, so in touch with, are you okay? And I just
Are you
want
sure? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
and also, and here's another point on the virgin trope. And this is again just me. I really am not big on virgin fetish
No, me either. I'm not either.
that word. I really don't, and I teach my children this too. It's like your value is not in being a virgin. That happens to be the moment that you are, but you're not less than afterwards, and you're not more than because
More
of.
than.
And so I really try to make my heroes also realize that too. I don't want them to get all hyped up over being the first,
Right.
side. That kind of isn't my thing. And I'm sorry if I'm not trying to put anybody down, but it's just really important to me with my daughters to teach them not to get hung up on virginity versus not. And so anyway, that's a really highlighted my whole career for me is the way I've handled virginity in terms of the messaging I want to put into the world.
And like, honestly, I almost didn't read Misadventures of a College Girl because I heard that it was a virgin heroine. I was like, I hate that so much. But then I saw a live where you were talking about it and you're like, I don't like virgin heroines, but I wrote her specifically. And it's true. Like I read it and it's my favorite book that you've written. And it's with a trope that I don't normally like, but it's done in such a different way. Like she doesn't idolize virginity and she wants to lose her virginity.
She actively wants to lose it throughout the book.
Yes. And I like the conversation she has with him where when she tells him that she's a virgin, he's like, whoa, your first time should be this. And she's like, was your first time like that? Exactly. And he's like, oh.
Yes. I love that scene too. She was like, wait.
Yeah, exactly. And I just feel very, very strongly that it sucks that we have a double standard and it shouldn't. And if a woman is like, this is how I want to do it, then great.
Right.
So thank you. That's really important to me. And I did say, and I do not like a virgin trope very often. I don't like how it's not even in romance, in life. I have daughters of a certain age. I talk to their friends and half of them, I'm waiting until listen, I realize that's what you've been conditioned to think you're supposed to do. And I realize I'm going to get some heat maybe if someone sees this, but like, is your future husband waiting? And it's not why. I understand that goes back now. There's reasons. I understand. I'm not stupid, but it puts too much emphasis on value with our sexual. Like it makes you into this vessel of like purity. That's just so damaging. But
amen to that.
I agree. I agree. Like, I think like Brie, like we probably read like a ton of virgin hero romances where like it's like a huge thing, like especially in Mafia. It comes up a lot in Mafia, like making sure that she's pure or untouched. Or like in historicals, they have to. Oh my goodness! If the woman is seen like kissing a man, like she's no longer pure. Her virginity is gone.
Yeah.
I feel like that's used a lot into a lot of different. It's just like even it's not even like just like one type of romance to a lot of different subcategories.
Mhm.
You see that a lot. It's like a big. There's not, and then like when you get like the virgin hero, I think like those are really really rare.
Mhm.
There's not a ton. There's usually the
That's
female
why I
being a
like
virgin.
virgin heroes, because it's so rare. You're so used to the heroine being a virgin. I think part of the reason also why I'm not a big fan of it is a lot of times the virgin heroine will be slut shamey, and then I can't like the heroine. I end up not liking her because she like thinks she's more valuable because of that and looks down on other people for.
She's not like the other, like what they say, like not like the other girls.
Yeah.
type mantra to the character. Yeah, I get that.
Well, I will tell you one theme across all of my books, whether it's a virgin heroine, or a much more experienced heroine. I hate slut shaming. I hate it in real life. I hate it in books. And I often have a hero say something like, the word slut isn't even in my vocabulary. They make up all my books. There's no slut shaming allowed in my life or in my books. And so that's just one of my core values that I am trying to proselytize across the world. We should be rid of this. And I think that making virginity some prize, some brass ring, is a vestige. It's just the other side of the coin of slut shaming. It's one.
Oh yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Yeah. If I could,
I didn't think
my firm belief.
And I didn't even think of those two concepts being related.
Daughters, and I've said, you don't have to wait for marriage. You don't even have to wait for love. You have to wait till you feel comfortable and safe, and this is what you want to do. What you want to do.
Yeah, if you choose to, that's fine. Like if that's fully just because you don't feel comfortable, then absolutely.
That's fine waiting.
Yeah.
So that's my philosophy, and it comes across in all my books. And
it does. Yeah. So I also wanted to ask you a little bit of like an unrelated question. What are some of your favorite romance books, or you could choose authors that you would recommend to other people to go check out?
Okay. I wrote a list because I knew you were going to ask me this. I'm going to go with just authors, because when I like an author, I normally like almost everything that they write. Yeah. We mentioned Kennedy Ryan before, and I absolutely adore her.
Yes.
She's a master and brilliant. I know this is not going to shock you, but I love Colleen Hoover.
Yes.
I
love Colleen Hoover.
I think she's a freaking genius.
Oh my gosh.
And maybe someday, like I was like crying at the end. I was like, that book.
No. Everything she writes slays me. And I haven't read her newest one, which is Layla, but it's
I know, I want to read that one.
I haven't read it either.
But I just adore her, and I love that she refuses to be bound by genre, that she refuses to stick with what she's supposed to write, and instead writes what her muse tells her to write. And she jumps around. I adore her. And I adore how real she is as a person, and how accessible and just so supportive. I really like her, and I like her writing. I'm a big fan of Lucy Score.
I have to read Lucy Score.
I haven't read her. I haven't read her yet.
Her last one was fantastic. Forever, never think. Super steamy, really steamy. You wouldn't believe it because the cover just doesn't tell you it's going to be, but it's really steamy. I love A.L. Jackson. She's a good friend of mine. I always mention her in these types of lists because she's like nobody else. She's really poetic when she writes, and so some people love it. Some people, maybe it's not for them. Open a book and see if it's for you. If it is, then you're like, oh my gosh, swept away. I love Emma Scott.
Yes.
And I love Emma Scott, and I love Kate Stewart, and I love Helena Hunting.
Yes.
Oh, I love Helena. I have to read more of her. Like I haven't read enough.
And T.M. Frazier.
Okay, so that's Frazier. Yep, that's a good one.
Yep, that's it. I like.
There, and okay, and then I'll stop talking. You can ask me. I love. There are books that I love. I love, obvious books. They're obvious books. I'm not going to tell you anything that's going to be some hidden gem you don't already know about. You guys have read more than I am because I'm busy writing more than reading. But when I read, I go to one of my go-to authors because I know that they're not going to disappoint me.
Do you listen to a lot of audiobooks, or do you mostly read physically?
I love audiobooks because my life is busy. I have a big puppy right now, and I have to walk her a ton. And so it's really nice to be able to listen to an audiobook while I'm walking my dog.
Do you have favorite narrators?
Well, I really do love Zachary Weber,
Yes.
Jacob Morgan.
Mhm.
And
Have you heard Christian Fox? Christian Fox has a very similar.
He's good.
so good.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah, he's good.
I love Jason Clarke.
Jason Clarke
Jason
has the
Clarke.
same type of voice. Yeah.
Mhm.
I love that. And yeah, but you know, I see I'm in oral fixation, which is
Oh yeah.
a big group,
Mhm.
and I see someone go, I just listened to this and it's so amazing and I couldn't believe it, and I'll be like, okay, click. And kind of jump around.
Yeah.
I do love audiobooks.
Mhm.
I'm happy you said that, Lauren, because like my brand is audiobooks.
Yes.
I really do love audiobooks, and I just love how it can just make you watch a movie in your head.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I often will choose an audiobook over watching anything because it's just like
That's
I always feel
true.
like watching something, it just feels lacking to me. And I'm always like,
Mhm.
why can't I focus? But with an audiobook, I could just like sit and focus on the audiobook, but I can't sit and focus on watching TV.
Do you
Yeah.
just sit down and not do anything
No,
else?
I'm usually multitasking, but like at night as I'm going to sleep, I'll listen to an audiobook as I'm falling asleep,
Mhm.
which can be problematic because I'll like sleep and the
I'll fall
audiobook will
asleep.
finish.
I've
and then you
done
have to
that
go
before.
back. Yeah.
I fell asleep like during I think it was like I was reading A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I fell asleep like probably around chapter 3, and then woke up and I had like maybe like 10 chapters left. I was like, oh, I still can like kind of figure out what happened. It's like, it's okay. I just like, looked at my phone. I was like, oh wait, I meant to put a sleep time. It just kept on playing.
I wake up and it's like chapter 22, and I'm all, oh, I think I was on chapter 4.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the worst when you lose your place in an audiobook. You're like, hold on. Because you can't get like a little preview. So you're like, maybe it was this chapter. Maybe it was this chapter. This sounds familiar.
Terrible.
Yeah. And so and then I guess if Bree doesn't have Bree has any final questions, but my final question is, what are some of your top 3 favorite movies / TV shows that you've been enjoying in quarantine? Have you been watching a ton or just, okay, good. Okay.
And I'm normally not a person who watches a whole heck of a lot. I prefer to read or listen to an audiobook or write. But on quarantine, man, all bets are off. So I have more than 3. You mentioned you might ask this question, and I went back and looked at my past history, and it turns out that a lot of what I watch is twisted and weird and totally psychotic. And I'm not. I know. I mean, obviously, I watched Bridgerton like the rest of the world, but who am I giving that recommendation to that hasn't already seen it?
Right.
Let's see.
So here's one. It's on Hulu. It's called The Great, and it's about Catherine the Great. But that sounds like, oh no, trust me. Done in a way where it's so clever and crazy, and like her husband Peter is like a nut job. Like if you like Keen Morgan, like you're gonna really like this. It's done in a way that you're gonna love it. It's so irreverent. That's the word. It's nutty. It's just nutty. The Great on Hulu. I watched Behind Her Eyes on Netflix, which is, did you see that?
I read the book before. Watching. It's
crazy.
The last episode messes. I was like, this ending was just like,
it's nuts. I don't know. I just want to be like freaked out. I want to be mind fucked. I like
it does. Bree, you should watch it. It will mess up. It will mess with your mind.
I like those kind of shows though.
Too. I love it because I write happy and everything that I want kind of to be mind fucked. So speaking of mindfucked, I just last night watched a mindfuck movie called The Perfection. It's kind of a little gory, but it's really, really crazy, and I loved it. It's called The Perfection, and it's really. I had to go like this a couple times, but it's really worth it. It's really worth it. Okay, here's for people who love love. I watched a reality show on Netflix called Love on the Spectrum. This is a group of people who are varying degrees of autistic. And they live at home with their parents, and they're being matched up to go out on dates and stuff. And it is beautiful. It is done with such respect. It is so lovely. I cried multiple times. The parents are so supportive and sweet. And you get so invested in these people, and you want them to find love so badly. And so many of them are like, have all these issues, and then they meet someone else with issues. And they're like, that blue skin meets a blue skin person. so sweet, and the parents are so kind and loving, and if you just want to feel a good thing, it's so sweet. The Spectrum. My husband watched it with me. He doesn't normally watch this stuff, and he was like, "Next one, again." So amazing. And then, okay, here's something really weird, but I was watching on Netflix. They have this series about Formula One race car driving, and it's a reality show. I know nothing about it. It's huge in Europe, right? Every driver is so smoking hot. Oh my God, they're smoking hot. And then the races themselves are so exciting. I'm like, it's like, you're like, it's so exciting. And then they interview the dudes, and they're all European. So like, it'll be like, oh my gosh, you guys, these are men. And they'll have like a French accent,
yes,
Italian accent. They're gorgeous. Formula One, I'm telling you, trust me. And then, last but not least, again, this is really super weird. I'm not giving you mainstream because if it's mainstream, you've seen it.
We already have seen it.
End of the fucking world. This is a kind of a YA love story. A kind of psychopath guy wants to kill this girl because he's a psychopath, and things go horribly wrong. And then he doesn't kill her; they actually fall in love. And so it's called End of the Fucking World, and they're British, and it's British humor, but it's also tender love, but super quirky weird. I love quirky weird because look, there's plenty of you can watch all the normal stuff. I don't even tell you the normal stuff. Oh, last but not least, one of my all-time favorites is Fleabag. I know it's huge, but if you haven't seen Fleabag, that's on Amazon Prime. It has 2 seasons. Season 1 is amazing, but actually season 2 is even better. She falls in love with a priest.
Oh.
The hot priest. I just heard the joke, the hot priest.
It's so good. And so in this, it takes a little getting used to because it breaks the fourth wall. Like in The Office, if you watch that or part of it, she's constantly looking at the camera. You're her friend, and so she's looking at you. So she's looking and she'll go like or she'll be like, and so it like takes like half an episode where you're like, wait, what is this? Why is she doing that? And then you slowly fall into like, okay, fine, I accept it. That's the universe. And then you're like, she's your best friend, and she's quirky, and she's got problems, and you love her, and you fall in love, and it's so good. Fleabag.
My brother has been trying to get me to watch that.
You'll love it.
I haven't watched it either.
Funny.
It's been on my radar. I'm bad with like watching.
I'm bad.
Because I'm
Me
like,
too.
but like I have to read these books.
I know.
Like these books are staring at like, let me just put on my audio.
But that's why I figured you said you might ask. And so versus me saying, oh, I watched Bridgerton and I watched, I could tell you like all the really top things that I've seen because I've seen them too. And they're great. But I feel like everyone's seen the same stuff. And so I thought, I'll tell you the stuff you might not have seen, that you should drop everything. But granted, I'm a little weird. And I want to be entertained in a way that's weird. So take that for what.
So I have one final question too. What is the best way for fans to support you?
Oh, what a nice question. I think there's lots of nice ways, but I have to admit, like what you guys both do, is shouting from the rooftops. It doesn't really matter how big or small your platform. If you're on Twitter and you tweet or put up a review, or if you literally just tell your friend, oh, you have to read this in person. And, if you spread the word, that is so much bigger to me than pretty much obviously you reading the book yourself is very helpful. But I'm so grateful when you spread the word, because that's shockingly how people find me. I'm an indie. And so it's word of mouth more than any other thing is how people find me. And the great news with me, by and large, if someone reads one of my books, they wind up reading more than one. People continue in my universe. They just, unless it's one of the 1 in 20 people who just can't stand me, and that's fine. Not for everybody. Normally people want to continue. And so therefore now, all of a sudden I have maybe a new true fan. I hate the word, but you know what I mean? Like, so thank you. That's a good question and very kind, and I appreciate people.
I'm always curious, especially with indie authors, like the best way. So social media, obviously, writing a Goodreads review, Amazon reviews, are those as big? I'm so terrible with Amazon reviews.
I'm sorry, Laura. I'm bad at those two. Like, someone asked me to review a book on Amazon. I'm like, I can do that. Like, it doesn't, like I've been Goodreads. I think that's it.
No, it's one way. That's why I said it's like it might be your way of spreading the word is by writing a review. Your way is literally telling a friend, oh my gosh, I just read this. You have a buddy and you tell that person. Or like what you're doing right now with this video. I'm so grateful. And so it's really just telling one other person, loving it, amazing, and people, and any way someone finds me, reads me. Sometimes people reach out to me and send me an email or a voicemail or whatever. There's so many ways to find me. And I'm so grateful. And that's also appreciated, of course. But I'm just saying the best pinnacle is, and I told my friend, and my friend read it, you know, that's like, oh, thank you so much. Okay, keep this train going, you know.
I know it's so satisfying when someone tells me that, oh, I picked up Lauren Rowe because of you. She's my new favorite author. I'm like, yes, mission accomplished.
I hear that a lot. So I truly do thank you from the bottom of my heart. I cannot tell you how many times someone says, they'll reach me and they'll say, I picked up this book because Bree said. And then
I gushed about it for 3 hours. Yeah.
And I'm just like, Bree again. Oh my gosh. So
every video.
No, I mean, how did I get so lucky? I don't know. I had to pinch myself because, like, how did I get so lucky? I don't know. I'm just sitting here in my office typing on my little computer. I don't know. And then, like, you guys come along, and I just am like, oh my gosh, I am the luckiest author in the world. I mean it. I know how lucky I am. So thank you very, very much.
You put passion into it and it shows. Like you love those characters and it shows. And I think that's the biggest reason. I don't know that it's so much luck as it is just your passion for it.
It's a combination. I have no illusions that it takes luck to be successsul. It takes passion and it takes talent and it takes perseverance. It takes luck too. And so my luck is that somehow you found me, somehow you picked up my book, somehow, and then decided that I was one of those you were going to tell people about.
I won a giveaway. I won your giveaway. That's how I found your book.
Really?
Yeah, I went to your table at Polycon or Smudathon or something. Yes. And you were sold out of, I wanted Ball Peen Hammer, but you were sold out and you're like, hey, enter the contest, you might win. I was like, okay. So I entered the contest and I bought another one of your books and then I won it and I got sent Captain and Ball Peen Hammer. And
that was Shameless, wasn't it?
I think so. Yes, it was Shameless. Yep. And then I got it when I had the flu and I binged it and I was like delirious with flu, but I binged those 2 books and I was obsessed with them. And then I got the audiobooks and I reread them. Yeah, that's how I found them.
That's luck. That's there. Because that giveaway was not fixed. I literally pulled a name out of a hat. So I didn't go, no. That was serendipity. So that's what I mean. I have no problem saying I've been lucky. I'm lucky. So thank you. I'm so grateful, both of you. And it's great feeling to know that you care enough to even want to talk to me. Thank you.
And for everyone watching this video, go buy the Love Hate Duet. The first book will be released today when this video goes live, April 15th. And then the sequel comes out April 19th?
Yeah, 4 days later.
4 days later. So like you can binge the audiobooks.
All of it.
Yep.
And the audiobooks are available for pre-order, which I appreciate, Lauren.
Yes.
Like the audiobooks are available. I don't have to wait like 6 months to a year for the audiobook to drop. And the author being very coy, like, maybe it's coming soon. I was like, when is the audio coming?
The audio.
Kenny Ryan did that to me once for like Block Shot. I was like, after I read Long Shot, I was like, Kenny, where's the audio?
Yeah.
So I just caved in and ended up reading it, and the audio came out like halfway while I was reading it. I was like, finally. Like I was about to say, Kennedy, you're breaking my rule right now.
Well, as an author, you have a choice. You can write the book and immediately release it, and then wait and get the audiobook in production, or you can write the book, send it to the audiobook narrator, get that back, and you have to then hold off on releasing your book. And that's how I do it.
That's hard.
So like, which end is the reader has to wait either on the front end or the back end, and I make you wait on the front end. So, for instance, I haven't released a book since July of 2020 because I've written 2 books and waited for the audiobooks to be ready and blah, 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 blah. So I could have released these books. They've been written for quite some time. I could have released them a long time ago, but I decided, I'm going to release it all at once.
Yeah, so definitely download these. And then when you immediately have a hangover, if you haven't read Lauren Rowe before, you have a whole world to dive into. You're welcome.
Yes.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Yeah, you have so many books to dive into. Like after you read the Love Hate Duet, I bet you're gonna probably want to read the Reed Rivers trilogy, and that was like as a nice branch way right back into the Morgan Brothers,
Yeah.
and you can go right back like it all
Into the
connects
club,
weirdly,
and
so
then Josh and Kat, and you're good.
so you can just like start anywhere and find your way.
Read Josh and Kat at some point. No pressure, no pressure. And if you like freaky deaky, I'm telling you, they're freaky deaky.
I need to like I gravitated to the club, so I read the club and I was like, I'll get to Josh and Kat eventually. Like I'll get to them, and then I was like, when it was coming closer, I was like, oh wait, I still haven't read Josh and Kat yet.
Jonas is all deep and quoting Plato and everything.
Yeah.
Josh is like, not that. Put it mildly. So enjoy. But thank you both again, and I'm super duper honored, and it's been a blast, and what a joy for me. You have just made me so excited. I'm starting to write on Monday, and now I'm all full up.
Yes. And thank you, Charles, for hosting this and for inviting me.
I will leave everyone's links down below. I'll leave the link so you can like go on Amazon and buy the books. I'll leave the second book pre-order. So if you want to pre-order the second book after you have read and loved the first book, which you will, you can go ahead and pre-order the second book, and it'll be out within 4 days, so you don't have to wait that long. That is absolutely awesome. You don't have to wait a week. You just have to wait 4 days. It gives you enough time to read the book, and then you can finish off the conclusion, which, trust me, you guys, you're not going to be ready for the smut in this book. Like, there's some scenes there's some scenes I was like, Lauren, could I have like at least 10 more pages of this? Like, it was good. It was good. It was good. I was like, Like I'm loving this. I'm loving this duet. Like you guys will absolutely love it. Go buy it.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys will absolutely love it. Like
I know what you like. Got it.
yeah, you guys will absolutely love it. Like I said, I'll leave everyone's links down below in the description box, as well as the links so you can go buy the books. But thank you again so much, Lauren, for coming on my channel. You are more than welcome on me and Bree's channel to come at any time if you want to just chat about books. About what you're loving and what you're reading. I'm down for it. If you want to send me more arcs, I will read them. I will drop everything. Like, okay, this is my main read right now. This is my main read right now. Everything else can wait. But
thank you. Thanks for reading that in advance. That was sweet of you.
Yes, I absolutely loved it. I can't gush to you guys. Like you guys know, I'm the 1-star king. So if I love a book,
I didn't know that.
Like. I mean, when I love it, I actually really, really love it. So like, you guys will love this. You guys will love this duet. Like I said, all those links will be down in the description box. And thank you guys so much. And I'll catch you guys with a brand new video. Bye, everyone.
Bye.